Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. This is the Tuesday, March 8th, 2016 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public announcements and upcoming meetings. The Hanson Water Department has announced that a full water ban is now in effect. The Treasurer-Collector Office would like to remind residents that the motor vehicle excise taxes are due on Thursday, March 10th. You can pay online at www.hanson-mass.gov or deposit your payment in a convenient drop box in front of the town hall. Bowling for Dollars for Scholars will be held on Saturday, March 12th, and on Sunday, March 13th, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. The Hanson Bowlerdrome, adjacent to the Hanson AA, at 171 Reed Street in Hanson. For every string bowled during this event, a donation will be made to benefit the Whitman-Hanson Dollars for Scholars. The cost to bowl will be $3 per string, with no charge for shoeing during the event. Will benefit the class of 2016 in the form of scholarships. The event is being hosted by Richard Green of Hanson. For more information, please contact Richard Green at 781-588-1205 or visit www.whitmanandhanson.dollarsforscholars.org. Eagle Scout candidate Connor Keene will be holding a bottle and can drive on Sunday, March 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Thomas Mill as a fundraiser for his Eagle project. Deadline for Hanson Little League sign-up is March 19th. Go to hansonlittleleague.com for more information. Opening day is Saturday, April 9th. Upcoming meetings: final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee, Wednesday, March 9th, 4 p.m. at the police station. Whitman-Hanson Facilities Committee, Wednesday, March 9th, 6 p.m. at the high school. Community Preservation Committee, Wednesday, March 9th at 7 p.m. Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, March 15th at 7 p.m. And Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. And that concludes our announcements and upcoming meetings. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Chief Thompson, and he's going to give us a little overview before we have the swearing in of our new Fire Lieutenant, Kevin Mossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I want to thank you for having us here tonight. And like the Mr. Chairman said, I'd like to give a brief overview of the process that got us to tonight. In order to become a lieutenant for the Hanson Fire Department, there's a process that you have to go through, and any member with 3 years experience is eligible to participate in the process. The process consists of 3 components, which is a written exam, a fire problem, and an employee problem. So each candidate is given a reading list that's applied to them, and they participate in a 100-question exam, and they have to get a 70% or better to move on. At that point, some of the reading materials would be like building construction in the fire service and also a company officer book. The next portion is a fire problem. We actually go out into the community and we take a picture of a residence or a building, we superimpose fire, and then each candidate is responsible to be the first arriving officer at the scene, and they act as the incident commander and basically have to mitigate that situation, and they're graded on how they handle it and if they hit all the benchmarks that are set out prior to the evaluation. The third portion is an employee problem, or a problem that they would definitely face at the level of company officer, and they're graded on that by how well they counsel the employee and also how the desired outcome that we're looking for, how it's graded. So at the end of this process, each portion is graded and weighted separately, and then the person with the highest score is the person that gets the promotion. And tonight we're here to swear in Lieutenant Mossman, as he get the highest score. I would like to say that the process is something that's not easy to go through, that it takes a lot of time on top of your regular duties and away from your family to put the time in to read those books and practice for those practical portions of the exam. And as I see some lieutenants in the room and some retired lieutenants, I'm sure that they'll tell you that in the past it was just as difficult. So he did a great job and worked hard to get through it. And do you guys have any questions about the process?
I think Mr. Scott has something he'd like to say.
Well, I just wanted to, I didn't want to step, see what you wanted to do.
No,
No, go right ahead.
Okay, yeah, great. I also want to point out that we had some other members go through the process, and although we only had one position, I believe that by them going through the process, that it makes them better firefighters for themselves and the town, because they actually had to read the books and go through the practical portions of the exam. So it's a learning experience for them. We're here tonight to swear in Kevin because Lieutenant Gary Smith, who I think I see back there, but he has a beard now, so I can't recognize him. He retired last July. And at that point in time, we have to post the exam and give a certain time frame. So in the interim, we have to promote somebody as an acting lieutenant. And Kevin, with 25 years on the job and 21 as full-time, being the senior firefighter, he took on the responsibility as the acting lieutenant for that shift. And he also was willing to take on the responsibility of fire prevention officer. So to go back to what I said about the process, for him to take on those duties as the shift commander and have to learn how to run his shift and also learn the new fire code and find time to study and top that test, he should be proud of that, because that's a lot of work.
Jimmy, those books are like, it's gonna be about altogether, what, 8 to 10
No,
inches?
no, we're not civil service, we only had 4.
Is it, yeah? But they were-
Kevin, it's a lot of reading.
But it was a lot of reading, it was pretty thick, weren't they? I mean, it was really thick, I saw, you showed me some of them, so, yeah.
A little bit about Kevin. He's well known in the community, grew up in town, lifelong resident, went to Whitman Hanson. He's here tonight with his wife Lisa and his 3 kids, Sarah, Emily, and Matt. And I believe he's going to be a great asset to our command staff. And he's done a great job so far, and I would expect nothing less from him. So if you guys don't have any questions, I know Mr. Scott, do you want to speak before Ms. Sloan comes up?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just to,
No, absolutely.
hate to, go back to history, and I've got to do it, Kevin. I was there when your dad was sworn in as a Hanover police sergeant.
Yep.
I followed him a couple of years later and was sworn in as sergeant, but he would be so proud if he was here today. We did lose him, unfortunately, and not to bring up, the bad memories, but just that he'd be so proud of you today, and I congratulate you personally for that.
All right, so if there's no other questions, Ms. Sloan could come up. Kevin? This is his favorite part.
Yeah. Raise your right hand. Do you, Kevin Mossman, solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as fire lieutenant to the best of your abilities in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth?
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As we do always, we're gonna have somebody pin the badge on. He wants to have his wife Lisa, but he wants his whole family to come up, so. And now the
Tracy.
jokes will start about stabbing him and having car wreck.
Tracy has her camera.
That's okay.
Did you guys practice or no? I'm sure. Nice job. That's terrific.
Congratulations, Kevin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Girls.
Yeah, congratulations for all your hard work.
Yeah.
Kevin, you gonna speak?
Hey, man, you work hard. Good to see you.
What do you want me to say? No, I will say, I just want to thank my family, my wife Lisa, Sarah, and Emily, Matt, for your unconditional love. Thank you very much. To the members of the Hanson Fire Department, past and present, thank you for everything. I've learned a great deal from all of you. I look forward to continue to work with you guys. You guys are fabulous to work for. I enjoy coming to work every day, so on behalf of that, thank you. Board of Selectmen, I want to thank you for your service to the town of Hanson, and for all you do for us and our community. And hopefully I can continue to serve at the town of Hanson for many years to come, or at least 6 anyways.
Thanks. Nice job. Hopefully, are you having cake, Kevin? Can you save us some or no? No?
Slines I gave us.
Okay.
That's always a nice way to start a meeting. Okay.
OPEB.
Somebody's gonna have to read this motion.
The first matter on the agenda is vote
Don't read it, because that's what you have to say.
and discuss a vote on other post-employment benefits trust. Did we vote on this last week?
No, we have to, there's a specific motion that's in your packet that needs to be read and voted on, and that one needs to be signed, so don't.
Okay, I have it here.
We were supposed to review it. Mr. O'Brien came and spoke about this, right? No, this was from.
Is this the contract?
That's the actual vote that we have to submit to the
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2 pages?
Yes.
pages.
Yep.
I don't have the other side of
Yeah,
it.
take that.
You sure it's a 2-page document? There you go.
Okay,
Yeah. She said in paper.
all right. See, we already had a consensus vote to accept this, didn't we?
I believe we did.
So today we just
further
do the
review, yeah.
motion.
Yeah, we just
Yeah, but
want
you
to
have to be
review and-
specific, and you have to read the motion as it's printed.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion of the following. This is the vote of the Board of Selectmen on the vote on the Town of Hanson authorizing participation in the Plymouth County OPEB Trust Program, PCOT, right? Whereas the Town of Hanson, the town, has accepted the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Section 20, and whereas Plymouth County sponsors the Plymouth County OPEB Trust Fund, PCOT, and whereas the Town of Hanson is eligible to participate in PCOT, a program designed to fund post-employment benefits for its employees as specified in the town's policies and/or applicable collective bargaining agreements, and whereas it is determined to be in the best interest of the town to adopt the public agency's post-retirement health care plan trust, a tax-exempt trust performing an essential governmental function within the meaning of Section 115 of the Internal Revenue Code as amended, and the relevant statutory provisions of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and whereas the town's adoption and operation of the program has no effect on the current or former employees' entitlement of post-employment entitlement benefits, and whereas the terms and conditions of employment benefit entitlement, if any, are governed by contracts separate from and independent of the program, and whereas the town's funding of the program does not and is not intended to create any new vested right to any benefit or strengthen any existing vested right, and whereas the town reserves the right to make contributions, if any, to the program, now therefore be it resolved that 1, the Board of Selectmen, called the Board, hereby approves participating in the Plymouth County OPEB Trust Fund, PCOT, and 2, the Board hereby adopts the public agency's post-retirement health care plan trust, including the public agency's post-retirement health care plan trust, effective
Today, March 8th.
today, March 8th, 2016. The trust, and 3, the Board hereby appoints the treasurer and his or her successor and his or her designee as the town's plan administrator for the trust. The plan administrator shall act on behalf of the town in all matters relating to the town's participation in the trust, including but not limited to authorization and investment of assets in PCOT's investment pool, providing directions to the trustee and/or trust administrator, and authorizing contributions and disbursements from the town's trust assets. And 4, the Board hereby appoints the PCOT Investment Committee for the oversight of investments. And 5, the town's plan administrator hereby is authorized to execute the legal and administrative documents on behalf of the town and to take whatever additional actions are necessary to maintain the town's participation in the trust and to maintain compliance for any relevant regulations issued or as may be issued.
You have to read the back.
Which one do you sign?
too, or not?
No.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. That's the longest motion I've ever read in my entire life.
Mr. Chairman, did I not? I
Yes,
came 6 to 7
I was
minutes
prepared.
late.
I was prepared. Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion on this?
No, we had enough.
Okay.
I read the document on it again, and I liked how well this was put together. The benefits of why you can give as little as you want or as much as you want. No startup costs, turnkey services. I mean, I was very impressed with the outline.
And no
Thank you.
penalty for, if you want.
Early
Nope,
termination.
that's
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
right, so.
Yeah.
IRS
It's kind of
approved.
a no-brainer.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you very much, Mr. O'Brien, for all the time you've taken to present this to the board
Which one do you need to sign?
and for being present with us
Keep
tonight.
that back out
You're
of his
welcome.
hands.
Great job
That's
reading
when we have to
the
sign.
motion.
No, she wants that
You're
back.
the 16th member now of PCOT. We will have 20 probably within the next couple of weeks. And you're the 200th member of the PARS umbrella. Remember Kate, she apologizes she couldn't be here, she's in California, which is why you're stuck with me. But it was great to see the appointment of a new lieutenant. I grew up in Hanover, so I know the family, and you folks are lucky to have him.
Thanks.
And he's now part of our retirement, well, he's been part of our system, but.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
No, sir.
Thank you folks very much. I know that Kate will be working, you'll get a nice little administrative handbook coming down the pike, and we thank Mary for all of her help too, coordinating, make sure you had that vote ready to read tonight.
Yes.
Just make sure all 5 of you sign it.
You got
That way
it.
we're in compliance with federal and state law.
Should we sign that now, Mary, so we can take it with them? Or what should we do?
No, I
She
have
has
to
to
get
make
stamped by
copies.
them.
Oh, okay, it has to be officially stamped.
It does, it does. And then you get a nice little handbook. And,
Oh, nice.
We'll be off and running.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Board, and thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Good job, Tom, under 14.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is we're going to hear from, we're going to skip over the school committee because they're not here yet.
Okay.
And I'm going to go straight to the report, the news we have, good news from the Town Administrator Search Committee, and our chairman on that committee is Ken McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Who incidentally, in my opinion, did an excellent job chairing that committee.
I think we'll have to put some coin at the end of that chairmanship, and I'll be more than happy to sign up for it. No, I had an absolute blast. The people that I worked with on the committee were professional and were very good at deciphering what we needed to pick and the route we needed to go. When we started the committee, we had specific goals in mind and how we were gonna get to our candidates. Everybody kind of put them in a pool, and we kind of got them, because we want to do it right. We've had some good but not long-term town administrators in the town, and that was one of the things we wanted. We want someone that's going to be vested, outside the box, not your typical cookie-cutter town administrator that has some good environmental awareness, some good budget experience. And in the candidates we got the second time around, there were 30. We were able to dwindle and whittle that down to 7. We interviewed all 7 of those candidates over the last couple weeks. We made our decision to move 4 of those candidates forward to the Board of Selectmen. And I believe we got it right. We got the cream of the crop, I think, for you guys to pick when you do your interviews. Again, I want to thank the board and the town for allowing us to redo it. I know it's a long process, and people are probably, I know that the current administrator who's filling in wants to go fishing.
He's fine, don't worry about him.
So I know it's a long process, so I want to thank the board and the town for giving us the opportunity to redo it, to get it right. And
How many did you say you have?
We have 4 that we're moving forward, we interviewed
4 of
7.
them, okay.
Yeah.
And the salary increase is what helped you get the
I
additionals?
think it did, I think that did, I think a little bit clearer job description
Cool.
Yeah.
helped, I
Yeah.
think the timing helped.
The benefits of
when
the
we did
position
it,
too, yeah.
I think maybe there were a couple more people that were willing to maybe jump from town to town, where before we did it, they weren't, it was kind of within their fiscal year,
Okay.
just after their fiscal year.
Yeah.
So I think we got it right, I think hopefully you'll be impressed, because we were with the candidates that we have. Any questions from anybody else?
When do we get to interview them? What's the deal? What's the approximate time frame?
Well, we, as a committee, we discussed with them that we were gonna move their names forward to the selectmen as quick as possible, and we were hoping that by the end of March, beginning of April, you guys would hopefully have someone in place in working under the current administrator.
Right, yeah,
To kind of walk them through the steps,
absolutely.
before he left.
That was our plan, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we were looking for. But again, it all comes on, time frames of getting them in and.
Yeah, it's just a
vacations.
ballpark, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. So I was hoping by the end of April, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, nothing?
Well, thank you for your hard work and
Well,
dedication. I know it was
It
a lot
was.
longer than you thought.
Yeah, it was a little longer, but I gotta tell you, the board members were, all the way from Mr. Young all the way down, were awesome. It was a good collaboration and a good makeup of the town from different aspects and different occupations, and it worked well.
Have you been on boards before and done this before?
I've never been on a board before.
That was one of the reasons why I picked you. I've never seen your name on any board or any committee.
Yeah, I decided that, I saw the opening and I said, I'll give it a whirl.
Some people are just natural for that.
Yeah.
Just plain natural.
So we have an opening on, can you give them a list of openings that we have?
Mary, when do we disclose,
We have a
disclose
selectmen's
names?
opening,
Yeah.
right, brother?
Kenny's gonna,
You're gonna disclose the.
Yeah, so is that the next part of the protocol,
Yes.
just disclose the names, okay. So, again, there are no particular order, they're in the candidate order, the number that they were assigned as candidates.
This is
So
like
I'll just read them
the,
as they come.
this is like the Oscars.
Oh, please.
Did you have Price Waterhouse review those?
And
Were those reviewed by Price Waterhouse?
Yes, these
Yeah.
are.
it's not gonna be like the Miss America
They're
pageant.
certified,
It's
right?
in my blind piece of paper, handed, I can't even read it.
Don't tell us who came in second,
All
right?
right, so our town administrator candidates are, number 18 was Michael McHugh, he's from Mansfield, Massachusetts. Number 21 was Gregory Enos, he's from Brockton, Massachusetts. That's E-N-O-S. Number
E-N-O-S.
25 was Sarah Smith from East Bridgewater. And the last one was number 26, it was a Shauna Hurd. The first name is C-H-A-W-N-E-R, Hurd, H-U-R-D, and from Lakeville, Massachusetts. We tried to keep it as vested, close as we could. It was one of the things that we were kind of looking at as we went through this process, and I think we were able to do it. I think we were able to get to where we needed to be.
Looking forward to it.
We'll let you know in a year.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah. If it doesn't work out, don't call me.
Don't call me.
So, no, hopefully, you guys will have a good, and that was our goal. Our goal was to give you the best possible candidates and a good group to pick from, so that you weren't limited. And hopefully we can get it this time and they can stay. A couple of things we asked were, do you have a greater than a 3 to a 5 year plan? Which kind of gave us some stability in what their plans were to stay and if they were vested.
Good, excellent.
That is all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again, we appreciate
Very
it.
well presented.
So now the committee is now officially dissolved, correct?
I don't know, you're
Oh, no.
gonna meet to do that, I think.
Right?
I'll sit for the dissolve.
Do we vote to dissolve the committee at this point?
dissolve the committee? Yeah. Are there, your minutes all done? Have you had a final
I
meeting?
think you should
Is
wait.
all that wrapped up?
One more meeting.
Or do you want to wait and post it on the next?
Well, that's right, we'd have to have one more meeting to approve our minutes and wrap things up, and we'll call it a day.
All right?
Yeah.
Make sure you pass to the other members our
That's
thanks and
Sure,
so
absolutely, I will.
please.
I will.
So Mary, at this point, I know the last time they picked the town administrator, they had the interviews I think they had them on Saturday, didn't they? Which is probably an opportune time to have them, because most people are
Well, I
available
think they
on
picked a Saturday because at least one of them was from out of state, so
Yeah.
it made it a little bit easier to do that. It's up to the board when they want to.
Yeah.
Do we want to do four in one night,
I noticed a couple
too?
of them online. I know Norwell did it on a Saturday, too. And I
How long
think,
the interview for?
Huh?
I was just thinking, do we want to do four in one night?
Yeah, you should do more than that.
Do one day, so Saturday might be better.
yeah,
So we did 4 the first night, and 3 the second. And it wasn't, the first night was a little long, but
and Mary, the whole deal with formulating questions for how does that take place?
We have questions that we've used in previous interviews. I
Okay,
can send that out to the board, and the board can look at those and
yeah.
decide if they want to use them or not.
And then submit any other questions that they might have to go along with those back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can sort through them and then eliminate any duplicates.
Mm-hmm.
And then what normally happens in an interview process is each member who asks the questions will ask the same questions to
The candidate.
each candidate.
Each candidate.
Yeah. And of course, there's there can be some follow-up questions by the other board members.
Is there anybody that's far away that's gonna have to travel?
Not really.
Farthest is Mansfield.
Yeah.
Everybody
Okay.
else was pretty local, you know, Brockton, Eastwood.
It's within the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's all public, is that correct, Chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the meeting.
That meeting has to be public, yeah.
Should we entertain the public if they have any questions that they might want to ask us, and we can consider asking them beforehand, or no?
What's that?
No, they can go. The public can go.
Okay. No, I know, but if somebody out there has a question that they might want us to ask one of the candidates, I'd be willing to do that. You understand what I'm saying, folks?
They'd have to do that prior to.
So write down your thing, send it in to Mary, and put it into one of the selectmen's, and we'll take in consideration the question
Oh,
that you're
sure,
asking,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
That sound like a good idea, or no?
In the last three that I've been at, they just had the same question asked each individual.
Yeah, we like to mix it up, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
We'll trick them, right? Yeah.
just trying to make it
Nice
equal.
tricky questions. I
Yeah.
like tricky questions.
We'll ask them all the same question, but yeah.
Okay, great. So Mary can get those questions off to the board. And then when's our next meeting, Mary?
We're scheduled to meet next Tuesday, the 15th.
Oh, perfect.
If you're gonna do it on a Saturday, I'm not available until March 28th.
What's that?
March,
28th is a Tuesday.
is it? What month are we in again?
When's the first Saturday
I
you're
knew I should have put
available?
my glasses on
What's
when I
the
looked
first
up.
Saturday
The
you're
first Saturday is
available?
available, it's Tuesday.
That's the 20,
When's the first Saturday you're available?
in 2 weeks.
Okay,
So the 19th or the 26th?
26.
26. Yeah, for those.
you want to make it the 26th? That gives everybody a good
I'm
advance
just
warning.
tossing this out there. I think that's the day before Easter. Is that
It
going
is,
to
it's
have an
actually
effect on
Friday,
anybody?
Good Friday is no school on that day, on the 25th.
Oh, my goodness.
Easter is Sunday.
Well, if anyone's going away, I
It's
wanted
Sunday,
to
not
mention.
Saturday, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, if somebody's traveling though, on
What's
that
that?
weekend.
Well, reach out to the candidates and ask them.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure the board members on.
We don't want to put it off too long. We need to get a town administrator.
Yes.
Won't be here.
Well,
Kenny
yeah,
won't
would
be
you
here.
check with them and see if
with
they're
them
all
and see.
available?
So we want to set up for Saturday, the 26th?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll have to go east egg hunting on Sunday morning, Bruce.
I know there's at least one candidate.
Why don't we
that's available,
tentatively, in
so
case,
there's
we'll
only
review it
three
and
that
see.
You'd have to check
If
with.
we have to change it, we'll change it next week.
Okay. That's great.
If not, we might have to do it on a Tuesday. one of
Because
our
you can do it
meetings.
we are not scheduled to meet on the 22nd currently, right now.
Right.
That gives
You want to do that instead?
What, on
Do it Tuesday night, the 22nd?
maybe meet a little earlier? Can we meet earlier?
No, we don't have a meeting. Instead of,
No, on that night, we can meet earlier.
You can meet at 6, start the meeting at 6.
Started at 6.
I would rather meet on the 22nd than probably on that Saturday of the Easter
All right.
weekend, no?
let's do it.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah.
We can meet at 6
We'll start
o'clock.
at 6,
Start the interviews at 6.
and then how much time in between?
We had them set up at 45-minute interviews.
We did 45 minutes. then it was-
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Mary's can pull numbers out of the hat and
So
give them
March
everybody a different
22nd.
time or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right, right.
sounds good.
All right, good.
Sounds like a
22nd.
plan.
Hopefully they're,
Yep.
yeah, 6
22nd.
PM. Hopefully they'll be
6
available.
PM, yep. Okay, super.
She wants a copy of the names. She wants to make sure
Yeah,
she's
I'll
present.
email them to you.
Yeah, Mary can email it to you.
Thanks
Thank you.
again, Kenny.
All right.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
Thanks.
All right. School committee's still not here, so the next item on the agenda is Veterans
Bob,
Agent
yeah, Bob's here.
Bob Arsenault, discussion of Veterans Tax Abatement Programs, and article for naming the Memorial Square. Bob, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
I'd like to report 4 items here, which is ongoing with with Veteran Services right now. The Veterans Tax Work Program is currently in effect. It's the same as the Senior Tax Work-Off Program. What it equates to is 103 hours for $750 tax reduction. Out of that program, I have 8 of the 10 positions filled. From the 8 positions, what we're going to be developing is an outreach program for deceased veterans' families. And researching my fellow veterans agents locally and what have you, none of them have done this. What we're going to be doing, I have 5 years' worth of death certificates in my office of veterans. We're going to be reaching out to the family. The ones that we can find telephone numbers for, we will be calling them. All the others will be sending out letters to the families. And what the program is designed for, we're going to make the families aware that they are entitled to a veterans marker free of charge, whether it be the flat bronze or an upright granite. Also, the plastic marker, which we, the veterans agents, put on their graves every Memorial Day. Also, we're going to be making them aware that we will be more than happy to do the paperwork for a presidential death certificate for the veteran, for the family. Many times when veterans, when they're buried in the local cemeteries, the cemeteries do not know, or nor are they aware that that plot is a veteran. We don't know many of the plots that are Fern Hill and some of the other surrounding cemeteries, the other towns, where the veterans are buried. So now we're going to reach out to the families and make it appropriately happen. Get a headstone, get the plastic marker, as well as the presidential citation. Also, we're going to be developing a veterans historical program. And what this is designed for is to interview the veterans in the town of Hanson. This has been of interest of me the past couple of years. Give you an example. This past Veterans Day brunch that we had at the senior center on November 10th, we had a veteran up there who was 101 years old. And I sat and I talked with him for 45 minutes. He was a very interesting veteran, talking about what transpired in his veteran service. As these veterans die, a lot of that history is lost. Also, by the same token, too, is that many times the families do not know what the veteran did in the time of war or conflict because they don't discuss it with the family. So by having a third party going in and interviewing these veterans with random type questions, what branch of the service did you serve in? Where did you serve? What did you see for war or conflict, or what were your duties? So we're going to capture this on CDs. At the end of the interview, we're going to present the veteran and his family the CD, and also we're going to capture this for historical data for the town. So what we're trying to do now is think outside the box with some of these tax work-off programs. What can we do? What has been done in the past? What has worked? What hasn't anybody tried? So these are 2 of the items that we're going to try this year. I have many more ideas. Hopefully next year, what we're going to try to do with the Veterans Work-Off Program is come up with a program and place flags all along Route 58 out here, which I think would be very, very nice for the town. But I'm just taking these programs 1 or 2 at a time each year that we can manage. Then from that, we'll develop the Patriotic Committee from that, and hopefully they can take over the responsibilities. Also, for the Springtown meeting, there's going to be 2 articles in the Springtown meeting. One of them is going to be for a dedication of Veterans Square across the street here at the corner of Liberty Street and Winter Street. The second article will be an appropriation for the marker and sundry items for the square. So that's what's basically we're doing in the office. We're doing a lot of things, a lot of creative things and what have you. And if anybody in the town, has any questions at all, please, the office door is always open. You don't have to be a veteran. If you have a situation, maybe looking for Social Security or other state agencies, what their benefits are, or federal, please don't be afraid to come in. Our job here is to take care of the citizens of Hanson, whether they're veterans or not. Do we have any questions from the selectmen?
No, I think you're doing a heck of a job.
Okay. Also, by the same token too, is that many times that the citizens have very good ideas. We're always open to those. By all means, if you have an idea that you like to kick about, my door's always open. I'll always love to entertain you, because Hanson's a nifty little town. You don't realize how nice it is until you move from it. I moved from Hanson 5 years ago. I wish I was back here. And I mean that sincerely. It's a nice little town. And you don't realize what we have here. Well, thank you very much.
And your office is
Well said.
open Mondays
Thank you.
and
My office hours are Monday, 1 to 5. I usually get in about 11:30, 12 o'clock. Tuesdays, I'm in here about noon time, and I'm here till 8 o'clock at night. But the same token, too, is that you can leave a message on my phone. I have an answering service, like all the other offices in the town, and I will get back to you. Don't be afraid, any little question at all, please don't be afraid. I'm the type guy also, too, I'm not shy. I'm not afraid to knock on doors if I don't have the questions to, answers to the questions. I go out, I will knock on a lot of doors, and a lot of the people in this, right here know that, what have you. And Bruce, I've knocked on your door many times, and Mike, I've knocked on yours door back there, what have you, some of the other selectmen, what have you. So this is what Hanson's all about. It's a nice little town. Hopefully we can keep it this way and we can grow with it also.
Well, we could use some of the, when, we've got our 200th anniversary coming up in a little less than 4 years, right, guys? We could use some of that historical,
Maybe what
You
we
know,
can
it's
do,
nice-
we can go back and we can resurrect a lot of what was done previously, and what have you, resurrect the committee and what have you. I think you were on it, Bruce, weren't you?
Yeah.
And a couple of the other old names around town.
Memorial Day and
We can
Patriotic
recruit these
Service,
people
yes.
for the committee by all means, and what
Yeah.
have you.
You know what's nice about the historical things? A few years ago, Brockton did the same thing, and they wrote down all the histories, they interviewed all the veterans, and they would print the Veteran of the Week and tell his whole story. Some of those stories were just so unique and
just,
fascinating, it was really, really great.
A lot of your older veterans, they don't like to talk about what they did. This way, the family asks for what you did do. Don't want to talk about it. But a person who they don't know, interview them, many times they will open up. And once they start opening up and what have you, I mean, it just goes from there and what have you. As I said, that Veterans Day brunch and what have you, I mean, he was a wealth of knowledge about what he did. Hopefully we can capture some of this here and for the town. And if anybody, I'll be putting out press releases to the effect on these different programs. So I'm here for your blessing to make you people aware of what I'd like to do. And with your approval, I'd like to move forward with them.
You need a motion?
Absolutely.
I don't know if we,
No.
general consensus?
General consensus is sure. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, really.
And by all means, if you have any questions at all or any suggestions, my door is always open. And always looking for ideas and how we can better the situations, make them better and what have you. So I think this is a start on something. I have some other ideas, hopefully next year, as these progress and whatever, we can move on bigger and better things and what have you. I've talked to some of the selectmen about some of the ideas that I'd like to do down the road and what have you, and I think we can make it happen. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bob. Okay.
School committee's still not here.
Yeah, they said they'd be late.
Okay.
All right. Appointments and resignations. We have to fill one position on the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee. And the applicants are Robin Sparta Curran, 23 Monroe Street, Robert Sutter, 264 Brook Street, and Laura Fitzgerald Kemet of 83 Bay State Circle.
Mr. Chairman, I'd mentioned earlier that Mrs. Kemet withdrew her name from consideration.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
And I'm here.
And
I'm Robin.
Robin Sparta Curran, 23 Monroe Street. Okay, we have your application here. Does anyone have any questions for Robin before we move to the vote?
Have you been on any other, you were a nurse advocate, is that right, Robin?
Yeah, that's a small business I own.
Very nice. In the town, in this town?
It's doing business
Self-employed?
as here, it's self-employed. I have a small office in Pembroke, and then I travel.
Very nice.
Yes.
Have you done any other boards or commissions before at all?
I was on the previous reuse committee
Committee?
8 years ago.
This is the final one.
Yes.
Till the next one.
That's why we named it the final
It's like
one.
American Idol, that's it, it's done.
This is the final, absolute final committee.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Robin Sparta Curran to the reuse final committee of the Plymouth County Hospital.
Close enough.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think the first meeting I go to is tomorrow at 4.
Please get a seat, Beth first. Go get sworn in first.
Yeah, you should get, is the town clerk still here?
Yeah, but she'll need a letter from me, so she can be sworn in before the meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you just need to get sworn in by the town clerk. So, you can do that, anytime,
I'm going to do that tomorrow during the day.
tomorrow during the day's fine. Yep. Okay, now we have Recreation Commission applicants. There's a vacancy there. We have Audrey Flanagan of 43 Baker Street, Tricia Dransfield of 14 George Street, and Joseph Campbell of 150 Woodbine Avenue. Are all those applicants here? Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicants? There was a, one letter that came in, that's in the packet, that letter I sent to you, Mary? On one of the applicants?
Yes, that should be in the packet.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicants? I just wanted to, have Mary look this up for me. I don't think too many people, I think get lost in translation. And so I looked up, this would be interesting to the applicants as well. The special town meeting of June 4th, 1990, basically eliminated some of the smaller recreation committees that we had and formulated them all into one recreation commission. And this was voted at the special town meeting on June 4th, 1990. And it was, the committee was originally 9 members and then it changed to 7 members. And it basically says that the commission still consists, well, now it's 7 members, to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. 3 for 1 year, 3 for 2 years, and 3 for 3 years, and thereafter thereafter for 3-year terms. It shall be the duty of the commission and each of the members to oversee the total operation of the current Camp Kawani and the current Cranberry Cove and other recreational activities deemed proper, including but not limited to the setting of priorities, the hiring and termination of employment and of necessary employees, necessary personnel, the handling of and the accounting for funds entrusted to their care, the maintenance of facilities, the planning of future operations, and all other duties that normally fall within these responsibilities. All activities shall be directed in the best interest of the residents of the town of Hanson only. Members shall annually choose a chairman, secretary, and financial secretary from their membership. And that was voted again on June 4th, 1990. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicants? No.
I know that Audrey Flanagan filed a disclosure, and I thank her for doing that. right? Of the appearance of conflict of interest, because,
I actually filed that in 2008, I believe.
Yep.
When I was
But you-
chair of the board back then.
June 2007, but yeah, no,
Yep.
and I appreciate you attaching it here.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, we've got an application for appointment from Joe Campbell, and Joe has a letter of recommendation from Mary Collins.
Yep.
He's done some really generous things with the seniors of our town. And we've got another one from Tricia Dransfield. Lived in Hanson for 15 years and fortunate to have taken part in some of the many recreation programs that Camp Kawani offers. So what are we looking to do?
Looking to have a motion to appoint, to fill that vacancy.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tricia Dransfield to the Recreation Committee.
Do we have a second?
I'd second that motion.
Okay.
I second all motions, right?
Any discussion?
Which one? Tricia Dransfield, I hope to pronounce that properly.
I think one of the reasons why, I just wanted to make sure that, Audrey, I know obviously Jim, I know Jim well enough, and I know that you'd be quite capable for the job. Again, I think it goes back to what we've been asking for before, was just some new faces, so it's nothing personal, obviously.
Yep, I totally understand.
Joe, you've got some great items here that, in colder seasons, you stop by, offer trivia programs for the seniors. You harvest, you have a daughter? I didn't know that. You got a great recommendation here from Mary Collins. Again, I know it's, I think you'd be capable of doing the job, and we do have other positions that we'll be looking for. So, any of these applicants who don't get the job, I would ask, I just met with the Open Space Committee last night. We're gonna be doing a survey, and then we're gonna be sending it out to people. This document on our open space document is needed so that we can write future grants. So, we're looking for help on that, obviously. We'll collect our thoughts together further on that, and more to come on it, okay?
Okay. Do we have a second to that?
Yes.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
And that's
Congratulations.
to fill the vacancy of Mariah McClellan with the term to expire June 30th.
June 30th.
2016.
Do you need that as part of the motion, Mary, or no?
No, she just letting us know.
Okay.
That's to fill the vacancy,
When does that term expire?
June 30th of this year, then be up for reappointment.
yeah.
Okay.
When's the next meeting? This Thursday night? Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Veterans
Veterans agent, okay, appointments. Veterans agent Robert Arsenault, term to expire 3/31/17.
Motion to appoint, or are we gonna extend the term? Motion to,
Yeah, this is what his new term will be.
okay,
His term expires the end of this month.
motion to appoint Veterans Agent Robert Arsenault. Term to expire
Can we
3/31/17.
do all three of them for Robert at once,
We could.
or do we have to do them
I
separate?
like it.
You can do them all at once.
And
can
because
do
they're
them
all
all.
the same expiration date, we're making
So
these.
Veterans Agent, Veterans Service Director, Veterans Burial Agent, Robert Arsenault, term to expire 3/31/17.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
A motion to appoint Animal Control Officer Lisa McKay, term to expire 3/31/17.
Second.
Motion and a second to appoint animal control officer Lisa McKay, term to expire 3/31/17. All those in favor?
All right.
Assistant Animal Control Officer, Joshua Kimball, term to expire 3/31/17.
So moved.
Second.
We should stagger that expiration date of those two, but okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. That brings us up to old business. Discussion regarding OCPC McQuon Street drainage project. Mr. Howard.
I can't find any information here.
I don't think there is.
I didn't put anything in the packet. Did you give me something to put in the packet? I thought you just wanted to talk about it.
Huh?
I thought you wanted to talk about it. Did you give me anything to put in the packet?
Were you gonna just tell everybody, Donnie, how we're gonna just probably start off that fund with a little bit of money and then work to build it up over the next 2 or 3
I
years?
thought I had it here, but I don't have it here. No, it's working through Old Colony Planning on the reconstruction of McQuon Street from the St. Joseph's Church here at Route 58 all the way to the Pembroke line. And working through Old Colony Planning, it's called the Transportation Improvement Program. The town has to come up with the engineering and design of the road, which is 1.2 miles long. And then once we have the design and the improvement there, the state, once the town supplies the money for the first part of it, for the engineering and design, the state picks up the ticket and pays for everything to be done with McQuon Street. This involves the drainage on 2 ponds, which is mandated by the state that we cannot dump water into a pond, stream, river, or brook. It has to go through some sort of a filtering system from the street to go into the wetlands, which goes to Oldham Pond and also goes directly into Oldham Pond. To McQuon Pond. The state requires, what they're gonna do is put 2 11-foot roadways, which is 22 feet, and 2 bike tracks on each side,
Oh.
and 2 sidewalks, a sidewalk on both sides of McQuon Street. This means we're gonna have hearings on residents that live on McQuon Street,
There'll have to be
so
some
that
land takings.
people can come in and talk whether or not they want to do it or not. But this involves a lot of money. I think the road itself, I kind of figured out in my head, it'll be over $3 million to completely do the road. But you'll wind up with a brand-new road, all drainage, and sidewalks on both sides of the street, plus a bike path on both sides of the street. Because the road easement through that area is 45 feet that goes from the church all the way to the Pembroke line. Pembroke already has been accepted, and they're gonna start this year from the Hanson line, and it's gonna go all the way to Route 53. And that cost for the town of Pembroke is over $9 million. So you can see, it's one of the best things the town can do, in fact, to get a road redone. McQuon Street itself, I've been here since 1948. I don't think it's ever been worked on. There's no drainage on it. And there's not a problem, but from Crescent Street, on this side of Crescent Street near McQuon Pond, the water that the residents have on McQuon Street from there to the Pembroke line are on the Rockland-Abington water supply.
Yep.
And during this process, if it gets passed, and it's gonna be done, the water department would like to put the water in from Crescent Street to the Pembroke line so that all Hanson residents will be on Hanson water, which it isn't now. So this appropriation or this money to put in for a town meeting, it's a partial payment of the engineering and design that the town has to pay by taxation. So it's gonna just be put on I assume it'll be an article that the people will vote for. So if there's any other questions, I can try to help you out. I will gladly try to do it. But that's kind of the ballpark figure. So, yes, John?
Did you mention the cost for the town for the engineering? Did you say?
Right at this time, they haven't got the total cost for the engineering, they've got a partial cost, for the simple reason we're trying to get it on the town meeting in May, so that by that time, we might have the final cost of it, I don't know. But this is sort of the keep it on the tip program.
Do you know what the
Big
ballpark?
Ballpark is 300.
$300,000.
300,000.
But that's the town share?
Would be the ballpark engineering, the town's portion.
So are you suggesting, like I know you said earlier, like putting some money away over a
Correct.
period?
We're gonna start
Would you,
with like 54,000 and then build up the pot.
to get it on the TIP program, the Transportation Improvement Program, with the state, at least we're showing initiative that we're gonna go through with it. So that therefore they'll keep it on the TIP program so that we'll be accepted to be able to do the project.
So how many years do we have to make up our mind?
To be honest with you, if it passes and everything's done, it'll be 5 years before they do the project. Okay? Pembroke's been on it now for the last 6 years. They were supposed to start it last year, but they got bumped a year, but
The interesting thing that I picture is how they're going to put in those bike paths and the,
On the
it's all
sides.
figured in.
they're going to put those bike paths in, and they're going to, on both sides of the road, and they're going to put
there's enough
sidewalks
room.
too?
Yes.
And sides.
Especially right near,
Easement.
going by McQuon Pond there. You know, we have the houses up.
And I also think that it's included on School Street.
It's going to be interesting.
So the School Street's included so that the sidewalks can be continued on both sides of School Street, which involves both schools, in conjunction with the sidewalks on McQuon Street.
So that'll be part of it.
That'll be part of it.
Michael Jones, yes.
Is Pembroke doing it on both sides of the street, sidewalks?
I think Pembroke is gonna only be one-sided. But when we had the interview and talked to him over to Brockton with the state, the new project includes both sides. So that, hopefully, that's what it'll be.
Can I just add to that? They've changed the regulations on that. Now it's required in order to do roads that you have to have sidewalks.
You have sidewalks on both sides.
Both sides,
Yeah.
yeah. That portion of the Be interesting how they do that. Did you know that narrow area up there by the pond?
Oh, that's another subject for another day.
Oh, yeah, I'm having a hard time
How
picturing
about that
that.
tree, the tree
Well, the
that's like,
Registry of Deeds in
half a foot
Plymouth
from the
has a
street.
layout, I think it's 45 feet.
You can get the
It's
joke.
an easement that runs from Route 58 all the way to the
that sucker's
Pembroke
gonna have to
line.
go if you're putting sidewalk.
Yeah.
You're gonna flatten the entire road too. You're gonna take out all.
Well, they're gonna take out as you go down McQuon Street towards Pembroke by the pond,
Yeah,
that knoll, it's
yes.
they're gonna take off some of that because it's a bad intersection for both coming out of Crescent Street and across the street.
Oh, yeah, that's
And,
murder coming out of there.
Those things will be all done with the engineering part, so that the light of sight, when you come out with a car, you'll be able to see both ways and makes it safer for driving.
And the bikes.
Mr. Clemens,
Just a few quick things. One is, this is probably a good time to start using the term complete street, because I think that's a planning term that involves planning for vehicles, planning for bicycles, planning for pedestrians, and something which a lot of older communities have never really done, but I've heard in different circles that term has got traction. That's an official
Complete
planning
street.
term, complete street. And, we've got a nice sidewalk along 58, but there's a lot more to be done. Secondly, I know that it's unfortunate to reflect on, but I know there's been at least one pedestrian fatality along Route 14 there in recent decade or two, and anything that improves walking opportunities and increases safety, we should be thinking about, so.
Definitely.
On the open space and rec plan too, I think that was one of the goals for one of the commissions.
It
Was more
stated
bike
to
paths.
us that every questionnaire we got back 8 years ago that had anything to do with walking, even though there wasn't a space, people wrote in the margin, how about sidewalks? So there was a lot of public sentiment then, and I'm sure now.
So,
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's dangerous to walk on the streets in the town of Hanson because they're too narrow. With the size of the vehicles that everybody has today, it's almost impossible to walk. In fact, there was a fatality in front of my house not too long ago.
I remember that one. Okay, thanks, Don, great report.
here it is, under create sidewalks and bike trails.
Yeah,
So if we pass this, we can actually submit this as we rewrite the report for it. Right? So, that was supposed to be for the Trails Committee, Green Hanson.
right. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
We'll have to table those, I don't have those done.
Okay,
We don't have a copy of them.
so we'll table those. And that brings the committee reports. Dawn is still up, Monpont Pond Committee.
They've sent news to me that they aren't gonna meet this Thursday. And it was just a normal meeting we had a month ago, so. It's still on the, what they're doing now is Halifax is gonna do another alum treatment in West Monpont Pond.
Mhm.
And hopefully Brockton won't take the water, and we'll be able to lower the water through Stump Brook, so that the treatment will be a better treatment, so that Brockton doesn't take water and take the alum and put it in a Silver Lake. That's mainly what we're trying to do. We're trying to control water so that it can be treated in a normal way, so that we get a better reaction out of it.
Great. Okay. Indian Head and McQuon Priority Repair Committee, we met, was last week, we met, and
With the school committee, right?
with the school committee was here,
Ernie?
Ernie, and also Ruth, was Ruth here too?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
And
Ruth was here,
Christine
and Christine Suko. And they're going to be doing an evaluation of that roof, similar to the evaluation that we did on the Indian Head School roof, as you remember. And what that evaluation does, it comes up with the evaluates what really needs to be done to that roof. And there'll be a couple of options presented, I believe. One, a least cost option, and the other one would be a complete makeover of that roof, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't that it, Mike? Yeah. And so there'll probably be an article for the cost of that evaluation on the town meeting warrant to reimburse the region. And also, there'd be we'll put a placeholder on that because we're not sure of what the amount is going to be that we're going to recommend for that roof. So there'd be a placeholder article on that, Mary,
Yes, I've already received it.
from the schools. You've already received it? She's already received it, okay. And there's going to be a few other articles as well. You must have got those as well, too?
Betcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So the goal will be to try to get everything done before the summer, or no? Or maybe get the roof repaired in October, Mike? Obviously, the best
Best time to do it is the summer when the kids are out of school,
Nobody's there.
yes, yeah.
And one of the estimates that we got was for $56,000, but that was not with that was not the replacing of the insulation. It was a low estimate. They were gonna put on a new film on it. They were gonna sweep off the pea stone, put on a new film, and take care of it. So we wanna take care of the wet insulation first, so that it doesn't turn into mold issue, right? And, again, the idea would be to try to get this done during the summertime. That estimate, by the way, to do that job was about 2 weeks, it said, so. If you double that, even if you say 4 weeks, we should be able to get it done in the summer.
Right,
I'd really like to see that get done.
yeah.
Because I know, Mike, you mentioned at the meeting, we're sick of looking at the barrels, collecting the water when it rains, you know, going into in the gymnasium.
Just stress that it's not a brand new roof.
No, no.
No point.
No new roof,
No.
no.
Just in that.
It's just a repair that we hope we'll get a 10-year lifespan out of that repair? So that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Highway Building Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we had our last meeting on the 29th of February and met with the architects that are working on a design and also the needs assessment that is being provided for them from the Highway Department, Bob Brown, Highway Surveyor. And we're scheduling our next meeting for the 15th, pretty sure it's the 15th, let me just double check that, the 14th. It'll be Monday night at 5 PM to meet with the architects once again. They're getting real close to finalizing their efforts to put something together for us for design. We did announce that Hubble, the parent company that owns the property down there, is going to give the town, in addition to what we had already talked about, an additional approximately 4 acres that will include the cell tower that is currently there. So it looks like a pretty good project for the town to move forward on. That's all I have to
We get
report.
the cell tower too, huh?
We're getting the cell tower, yeah.
That's neat.
It's being leased out right now on a 100-year lease.
Yeah.
100-year lease?
A 100-year lease that was paid up front.
Somebody paid 100,
They paid the fee up front rather than paying every year. So that's why they don't want it. They've already been paid, so they said, you guys can have it.
so
But
what
there'll
do we
be
do,
no-
take
So
over
in
the
70
lease?
years, when your
So we take
grandchildren's
over the
grandchildren
lease?
on the Board of Selectmen, they can rent out the antenna. But we won't have phones by then,
We
probably.
take over the lease? Is that what we do?
Yeah, but the lease it's not a monetary lease. They've already paid it.
In other words, there's no income
There's no-
to the
there's no
town
income.
regarding it.
When they put it up, they took their income up front.
But they had that lease with Hubble, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So it automatically breaks now that Hubble's leaving, doesn't it? And now it's,
No, they're
it's
gonna
our,
just,
now it belongs to the town,
Well,
right?
The original
Well,
lease was
not yet, but-
with Light Control.
Was with Light
Light
Control.
Control got paid up front for the full
Who
99
are they
years.
leasing it
Right.
from?
And
But lease-
I
but
think
Who
it's
leased it?
My point is that
I
the
forget
lease,
the name of the company.
not, it's,
isn't
I
the,
think it's T-Mobile.
T-Mobile currently is
T-Mobile-
on that
T-Mobile.
tower, yeah.
Now that's interesting.
but didn't they
and then-
break the lease when Light Control left? They no longer own it,
No,
right?
because Hubble is the,
It's the,
T-Mobile now.
Took over
Wasn't
Light
that the
Control.
firm that wanted to put the cell tower in behind McDonald's? It was T-Mobile, wasn't it?
I think so.
That's interesting.
they're currently on
but it's
it.
good for us because we're gonna get 4 additional acres that we can put a salt shed on.
Yeah.
And we may be able to do some research to see if that tower could accommodate other carriers if we do own it.
Right.
But there's no current rental coming into the town, what would be coming to the town based on that former lease.
But Bill, so Hubble got the money up front, right? Or Light Control?
Light
Light
Control,
Control.
yeah.
Okay. And now Light Control hands over that tower to us, the town.
Well, actually, Hubble
Hubble
owns it.
will, right.
Hubble is
Hubble
the
still
parent
owns
company. Yeah.
And they'll always still own it.
No,
No, but they pass it on, the town will be owning
they
it,
will,
right?
the town will own it, yeah.
Okay, so isn't it at that point, wouldn't the contract for the lease be void and
No, a
no?
long-term
No.
lease like that is recorded in the registry of deeds as part of the.
I mean, I'm not a legal
As part of
person.
an encumbrance on that property. That's how it works. So if you take over the property,
Yeah?
then
Don't you own it?
You take it with the leases and
still
any.
You take it
own
with
the
the lease.
property with the lease on it, is what
As,
happens.
as long as the lease
Yeah.
says that, right?
It's like you buying a 2-family house with a family in there
But if the
that's on a
lease-
lease.
my
You're
point
buying
is-
that
Doesn't matter,
family
the
too.
deed says
Not
that.
literally, but
The deed says that.
Well, I don't know.
Believe me, T-Mobile, it would put an encumbrance on that property down at the registry of deeds if they paid up front on it. They'd be crazy not to.
Stranger things have happened. Should we look into it or no, now that we own it?
no, we
we don't
don't
own
own
it
it. We
yet.
don't own anything.
When we do, though. When we do, is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, when we do, we'll have legal
Yeah,
look at it.
We'll cross all the Ts and dot all the Is and make sure that that lease is encumbered in the deed.
You see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, I see.
We'll
where
talk
you're
about
going.
it at town
Okay.
meeting. You'll have all your answers.
Can we bungee jump, bungee jump?
Sure,
on the top
and we
of
can
that,
charge.
That tower and charge people to gain revenue for the town?
Do
You do
whatever it takes.
Okay.
That's the report, Mr. Chairman, from this
Tracy
point,
just wrote
yeah.
that one down.
Yeah.
Okay, Town Administrator Search Committee, we've already covered
We've
that.
addressed that.
Final Plymouth County Reuse Committee, that would be Mr. Howard.
There's a school committee.
Have you guys met on that? One each?
Yes, please.
Christina's coming,
I don't know if Philip would want to come up here
I think Bernie.
and do this, or You want me to
I'll
do it?
sit closer, but.
I gotta take a 2-minute break.
Okay.
Bio break. There you go.
Break. Session.
All right, the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee. We have met 3 times, and we've reached a consensus. The removal of the main hospital structure should be the town's #1 priority. Of course, it would be simple, be the first phase of various steps that we would recommend to the future. The dormant, deteriorating presence of the structure is a liability to the town in many ways. It unproductively consumes the resources, the town's personnel, including police department and occasionally the fire department. Its continued existence inhabits future visioning, planning, and accomplishment of any positive reuse of the portion of that property. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board selectmen consider placing before the voters several options for funding. Geez, I'm having trouble reading tonight. Demolition of the structure. Draft wording is offered below. Details of the options. Option 1 is initiative request for proposal RFPs from private entities for them to have demolition accomplishment in exchange for a portion of the property. And it's basically, what portion is this? It's portion 1. As you face the hospital from High Street, it's a hospital land to the right, behind the school, behind the food pantry. And option 2, seek any possible grants at local, regional, and state levels to pay for demolition by the town. In option 3, we've come up to have the town raise and appropriate funds for demolition by the town with no strings attached, no agreements with private entities. I don't know in the long run if you're going to have somebody come in to tear the building down, even if we gave them the land, because it's a very, it's a hard percolating area of the High Street in that particular area is not a good percolation. They have new sewer systems now that they have, digestive systems that they install in the area, that they can purify the water almost and then put it back into the ground through a leaching area. But the leaching area has to comply with the, whatever the land is used for whether or not it's housing or, I don't think you'll get any businesses up there for the simple fact, I don't think it should be, it's just my personal opinion, to have it in a residential area. There's a lot of the land up there that can be used for parks or water or walking trails. And if there's any other, if Phil wants to say something on this, you're welcome to.
Sure, with your permission.
Yes.
Sure.
We all recognize, and the committee should recognize that overall, it's a large piece of property with a lot of variable sections. Some of it's wet, some of it's dry, some is high, some is low, some is flat, some is sloped. Most of it, the soil is very tight, as Don says. But whatever else you might think about in the future, the one thing that's in front of us right now is there's a liability there.
Yes.
And whatever you option or set of options we or others might recommend for that part of the property or any part of the property, it seems to be there's one highest priority, something to do that needs to be done.
That really,
regrettably.
right, that nobody can't disagree with.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because whatever else you do, whatever else we eventually do,
We gotta get rid of the
it'll be
building.
Get rid of the building.
It'll be
Number
made
one.
easier, it'll be made possible to approach that only by removing this. Again, it's a
Yes.
liability and it's regrettable. A couple decades ago, maybe something else could have been done, but the opinions I know that I've heard from people who know more about the building than I do and so on, is that this really, and the committee voted to say, this is the number one priority. How we do it, how we pay for the demolition, we're offering thoughts to the board for their response and action. Certainly, this is just the first of hopefully a number of things we'd recommend, but rather than wait until you've got every square foot planned with a great recommendation, but start at the beginning with the one thing that needs to be done the most and is most time sensitive.
Now,
So, let me ask you a quick question.
yes,
So out of all these three options, right, which one would be, for lack of a better word, the fastest?
I kind of think of the third one. Just demolish, get rid of the building so that the land, because CPC money can be used up there to develop certain areas. If the building wasn't there.
But you're gonna have to raise and appropriate funds, right?
Right. That's the problem.
So-
But what I'd like to do is I'd like to get it on the warrant so that we can have it put on for voting and
yes.
have the taxpayers
Decide.
decide on what effort we might want to go to. In other words, it'll be the taxpayers' money that's paying for it.
So if we put it on the warrant, right, I'm assuming we'd put three separate items,
Wait,
right?
wait, slow down. How do you put questions on a warrant?
Well, I just said, you'll put three questions on, three individual questions, right?
On a warrant?
And then you'll vote on each one? Is that-
I don't know, I only know that you.
How would that work, Mary? Do you know?
There are mechanisms.
The only time you can put questions is
Referendum.
on a ballot.
And how do we do a referendum, Mary? If you wanted to take it to the
You can't put
Maytown,
questions on a
Maytown
warrant.
election, okay? And you wanted to do a referendum, you still have to go through the town meeting first. You can't just put it in the referendum.
Right.
So if you wanted to put these three questions before the voters, you'd have an article at the town meeting, okay? Requesting that the voters approve this referendum for the Maytown meeting with options A, B, and C, as you've got listed here. You know, you might want to reword them a little bit.
And have that, right, you have that on the
I
ballot.
think
And then-
what
and
we
then-
said in this memo to the Board of Selectmen is details of the options need to be fine-tuned by those most qualified to do so.
Right.
We recognize we are not the wordsmiths and the legal people. However, the options are, we think, it certainly include these things. And to reiterate what Mr. Howard said, if you go with grants and funds of that sort, usually there are conditions, special grant conditions, strings attached, so to speak. And while it might be very appealing, and who knows, it might be the best idea, the option that we just discussed the most is if you were to do that, when it's done, say, the town can do whatever it chooses, whatever is the best thing, considering all options with no strings attached. But again, we recognize as a committee that
Yes.
we could have spent months trying to fine tune the language, but we aren't the ones to do it. It could be that, this board and its other folks, we could work together to fine tune it. We thought we'd at least recommend a placeholder to put this highest priority in some
No, I
form
like
in
that.
front of
Yeah.
voters.
I think you're on the right track there.
But what we feel is, we didn't want to rush with all the other recommendations, but after 16 years, we think there is one recommendation that does stand out.
Get that building.
Priority of the building.
Well, yeah, and nobody can disagree with it,
Level
because that's the
that.
first step before you do anything.
Mr. Chairman,
One
Could
minute.
you put- have Mary had a good, Mary, can I steal your idea of the Hollywood film?
What, rent it out?
It didn't get me anywhere.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before you can put this at town meeting, you gotta figure out how you're gonna pay for it. You can't put these three questions on a warrant for the residents at town meeting.
Well, I tell you,
We all agree that that building needs to go.
when's the 11th?
I thought that this committee was being served, it was being formed to come up with good ideas to come back to us of what we can do with the property. You know, no disrespect, but you guys come back and said the building needs to come down. We all know that. We're all in agreement there.
Well,
But
it's
you can't
been,
go to
it's
town
been
meeting.
16 years and nobody's come to the
I,
town.
the
Mr.
first
Howard, I
step.
understand, but you
This is the
still
first
have to
step.
have the means to be able to pay for it. What are we gonna go to town meeting and ask for? What are we asking for?
Well, I think some of the payment is mentioned in here, and as Mr. Clemens pointed out, the details of which need to be finalized. But if I'm not mistaken, Kenny, it says here, so the first option would be request for proposals, so from private companies with the exchange of a portion of the property, and they gave examples here, for private development, they would come up with a bill to us on what it would cost for us to fund for that issue. How that's to be funded, yes, you're right, those details still got to be done. But the second one is seek any and all possible grants. So if they did that, that's a portion of the money of that is paid for. I don't think you're gonna be able to get the full cost, but you're talking about a portion of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they did indicate that they don't have the details to how the funding's gonna be done, obviously.
That's what I'm saying, we
Well, we're having
shouldn't
another
rush it.
meeting tomorrow night at the police station.
I don't know what it is that you're gonna ask at town meeting based on these three questions.
We
This is
might
what I'm
have
saying.
some
Fundings?
money.
Cause you can't put a questionnaire at town meeting.
You know, it'll take approximately million and
No, that would have to go to a
600,000.
referendum
Yeah,
question.
it's
Yeah.
just,
I like the,
If I might say,
Yeah,
I think we're
we
going backwards.
offered this memo precisely to start the discussion about where the money would come from.
right.
And the voters should have a say. Do they want it to come from private, from grant, from their own wallets? And the mechanism, the details, we would need to be able to articulate that so they can make an informed choice. There are numbers available for the cost of demolition, which we will need to validate those, make sure they're still accurate. But we thought it would be important to start the discussion right now about where the money could come from, what are the options, and how to communicate that to the town as a whole. And we hope the board can help to do that. But we recognize it's got to come from somewhere, you're absolutely right.
because technically you could do all three options too, at the same time? You could
Well, you
do
could certainly do
RFPs?
1 and 2 simultaneously. You could ask for proposals from the private public at the same time, thoroughly exploring, vigorously exploring for grants.
But we'd have to pay those, we would still, as a town, have to pay the people who service the work, right?
Well, that's to be determined. I do not know the terms of these grants. I've been involved with the corporate world in mitigating large buildings that had hazardous materials in them, and some of them were very successfully reused, others were demolished. And the people who are in these businesses know how to do it and know how the payment should work. We are simply saying, do here now, early in our discussion process, that we feel this needs to be done. We feel the planning for how to pay for it needs to be faced up to and evaluated, and the choices need to be made. We aren't, as a committee of 5 people, not 4, now 5 people, we don't feel qualified to say this is the one best choice. At this point, we don't feel qualified to do that.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Don. Okay. Perfect timing. We're right at the end of the agenda, and so I recognize Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner is here, Superintendent of Schools, Christine Sukow, who's the business manager in Hanson Regional, the chairman of the school committee, Bob Hayes, school committee member Fred Small, and facilities manager Ernie Sandland. Thank you all for being here this evening. So we're going to be discussing the status of the statement of interest for the MSBA on the McQuon School.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for allowing us to come in at the end. We got the previous meeting with the Whitman Finance Committee, and we had a few minutes late, and it took us a little bit to get here, so
Great.
thank you for indulging us at this particular time. Ruth, if you'd like to.
Since we last met with you, we felt it was important that we do some data collection and come back with you with some information that may be helpful in trying to decide how we're going to move forward. The first thing we did is we really looked at the spaces we currently have. So Ernie Sandland, Christine Sukow, and I did a tour of the 3 schools in Hanson. We looked at McQuon School, we looked at Indian Head School, we looked at Hanson School, Hanson Middle School. The purpose in doing that was really to look at the current enrollment and look at how current spaces are being used, and I think we have a pretty good sense of the condition of the buildings. So what we tried to determine is if we did nothing, what do our spaces look like? Because there have been some concerns where people have said, well, there really is enough room at Indian Head or enough room at Hanson Middle School for everybody, you don't need to do anything. So we thought that was important to take a look at that.
Sure.
When we looked at the enrollments, I actually have some information that I put together that might be, yeah, let me keep one of these. I think if I show you this, it'll be a little easier to follow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, please.
So when we started out, we took our great big maps of the schools so that we have a very good sense of what spaces are being used and how they're being used. So our first trip was to the McQuan School, and if you look at the data that's there, I used October 1 for enrollment, just so we'd be comparing similar numbers. At current point in time, we have 428 students at the McQuan School, 320 if you don't count the preschool. As you know, we have an integrated preschool there. It's got 52 Whitman students and 56 Hanson students. Whitman students are either there because of special needs or paid tuition. So we separated out with we call that the integrated pre-kindergarten. We then looked at how many full classrooms were currently being used at the McQuan School. We did this largely to get a sense of if we had to move students out of that school, what kind of spaces would we need? So that's mostly just background information. The more important one is if you look at Indian Head School, because we wanted to look that if you were to take Indian Head School, as we know, there are spaces there to move students. It's certainly not up to capacity. At this point in time, October 1st, there were 370 students at the Indian Head School. We looked at the number of classrooms that were being used, how many were being used for specialists, for special education, and for services. When we looked at the Indian Head School and the spaces that were there, it looked to us that you could move one grade level from the McQuan School to Indian Head School and still have room for everyone. But you really couldn't move two.
Yeah.
There clearly was room if you wanted to move a second grade there. So that helped us solve kind of that problem. That's been a question out there for a long time. Could you do that? Yes, you could probably move a grade level, which at this point in time is somewhere around 110 students. So then, the next piece we wanted to look at was the Hanson Middle School, because there's been some conversation, well, if we were to look at some projects, could you add on to the Hanson Middle School, or is there space there for a grade level? Because enrollment's been going down in Hanson, it looked that even if we did nothing, we could probably add one grade level to the Hanson Middle School. So there is enough classroom space at the Hanson Middle School for probably a 5th grade to move there, if that was something that needed to happen. Clearly not enough to move 2 grade levels, but enough to move 1. Also, in addition to that, Ernie did some background information and we looked at, well, what would an addition be like if that were to happen? And from what we could gather from plans and from the project when it happened, that if an addition was to be made, it would be on the side of the library. That was where that was intended to take place. There are things that would have to happen. Ernie, you said there's a tank that's used for chemical.
There's a science, a 10,000 gallon height tank over by the library that would obviously have to come out, and we'd add one in some other place.
Okay.
But that's all that's the obstructions that are there.
I'm sorry, we talking about the McQuan School?
Indian Head.
Oh, Indian Head.
Hanson Middle.
Middle school. That's the middle school.
So it seems to us, just sort of in conclusion, that you could move one grade level from McQuan to Indian Head and there'd be enough room, and you could move one grade level from Indian Head to Hanson Middle, and there'd be some room.
Would that be 137 students for grade 5?
Yeah, and that's getting smaller, Jim,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't happen right away anyway. The numbers are dropping off to 130 and then to 110. So
Okay.
at this point, the numbers are getting smaller, but clearly with the spaces that are there, they're not using the room they did for family and consumer science. There's some classrooms being used by special education that are really small groups of students that could go to other spaces. There's some flexibility there. So I did talk to both Elaine White at Indian Head and to Bill Tranter at Hanson Middle, and I said, do you believe, because you live in your buildings every day, that you could absorb one grade level each? And they said yes. So that comes from them as well as from what we learned, and I really wanted to be able to verify that what we believed to be true was what they believed to be true. Then if you go to the next page, I just wrote down some background information because I know that this has come up before, and I want to make sure everyone is clear on that. We have a pre-kindergarten program in Whitman Hanson. It's called an integrated preschool. It is to identify students with special needs from ages 2 years, 10 months, who look as though they are possibly having developmental delays that could be mitigated by being in a preschool program. Many, many school districts have it. That's certainly not unique to Whitman Hanson. The way the program is designed is that we then open the preschool to what we call typically developing children. So the program is about 40% kids with special needs and about 60% students who are developing typically. The typical students all pay tuition. So I know there was concern about, well, what about Whitman kids who are in Hanson?
Right.
They're paying to be able to be there. If it's a special needs student, there's money that comes through the special ed department that would follow those students wherever they would go. The pre-kindergarten is now at McQuon, largely because of cost saving and also because of space. Up until 3 years ago, we had a pre-K program at Conley and one at McQuon. Because of tight budgets, those programs were consolidated. We saved about $25,000 in cutting costs. And in addition to that, it's a better program because everyone's in the same space and they can collaborate and work together. So I put that just to help board so that if those questions do come up, you've got some background on it.
Good.
The other thing I wanted to bring up too are collaborative programs. We work both with Pilgrim Area Collaborative, North River Collaborative. These programs pay tuition to use spaces. We're unusual in Whitman Hanson because both McQuon and Indian Head are larger than we need for our enrollment. So this is the reason that we've been able to use those spaces. This is done on a year-to-year basis. So if we were to do any consolidation, we would work with these collaboratives and they would understand that that's not a long-term commitment, it's an annual commitment that we make to them. So I've just given you some background information in case those questions come up to you as well. So then on the last page, I wrote down the considerations that we sort of came up with that we think might help. I'm going to preface this by giving you information about a conversation I had with Diane Sullivan. She's our liaison at the Massachusetts School Building Authority. She's trying to give us some guidance in terms of the type of statement of interest that we've put together. So as we go along, I'll share some of that information with her. First thing we know is that MSBA does not support the renovation of the McQuon School. This came up during the previous building project. MSBA believed when we went through the entire process that the building was beyond a renovation, that the cost to add sprinklers, to raise the ceilings to be able to do that, to do a new lighting system, were so costly that it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the 6 options, was it?
It wasn't,
Yeah.
well, originally it was.
Yeah.
There were 6 options, I actually brought that with us.
So that was one of the original
But then when those options went
options.
forward with them,
Yeah.
Bruce, they said, we don't think that's
Right.
money well spent for either MSBA or for taxpayers in Hanson.
Yeah, so if that got down to the, if that got down and got approved as the top option, it wouldn't have been approved.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. So it was, but one of the 6 originals, the 6 originals really looked at a renovation addition to McQuon,
Mhm.
and they said, we really don't think, we think you'd spend so much money trying to do it, it's not worth it. We do know that MSBA will submit 2 SOIs for a core project. What we have to do is identify one as the primary or the priority, and then a secondary one. Diane Sullivan told me that McQuon has to be the priority because of the buildings. It's the one that's in the
Correct.
condition that needs the most work. So
Yep.
that would be the priority. But she said if changes were proposed to either Indian Head School or Hanson Middle School, we would do a second SOI, and then what we'd have to do is build a case in the second one as to what we would be doing.
I see.
That could help to the solution of McQuon.
Exactly.
Right?
So
Okay.
what she said, when I talked to her talked for a long time on the phone. She said, you do your first SOI for McQuon, but as you do the McQuon one, you weave in what you're trying to do with whether it's Hanson Middle or Indian Head School to solve this problem. So I think it's important that you know that as we move forward.
Right.
So what we determined, if you consolidated special education services, Indian Head School could add grade 2 students from McQuon. Hanson Middle School could add grade 5. With the consolidation of special ed services, Indian Head could add grades 1 and 2 if grade 5 moved to Hanson Middle School.
Yeah, that makes
So you
sense.
could do that.
Yeah.
The problem is you still have about 160 students with no place to put them.
Right.
And that's what we're running. We're just not quite big enough to be able to do that. So I just wrote down a couple scenarios. The current scenario is that we have Indian Head as a 3 to 5 school with 370 students. Hanson Middle's a 6 to 8 student with 414. And then those are just the possible scenarios of what the numbers would look like. If it was a 1 to 4 at Indian Head, it would be 446, and a 5 to 8 Hanson Middle would be 551. But the challenge is you still have 159 kindergarten and preschool students unaccounted for, and they did take out the Whitman students, because you wouldn't be responsible for finding a place for them.
Right.
So, Ruth, real quick, so if you
Yeah.
moved grade 5 to the middle school,
You could do that.
right, and we could do that, and you could move 2 grades from,
If you moved 5,
if you moved
middle,
5
yeah,
to,
you open
yeah,
up another.
you could move 2 grades
exactly,
Yeah.
from McQuon
right,
to Indian Head.
right. But you'd still be stuck, Jim, with your kindergarten.
And your
kids
pre-K.
And your pre-K.
Yes, I
yeah,
agree.
Kindergarten and
Yeah.
pre-K.
Yep, I wrote that on my front
You know,
notes.
and you know, there are a lot of options. So I came up with 10 options, there are probably more, and this was really with working with our team. You could construct a PK to grade 2 school to replace McQuon. You could construct a PK to grade 5 school to house McQuon and Indian Head students, and of course, this is the project that failed. You could move grade 5 to Hanson Middle, and you could construct a PK to grade 4 school. You could renovate or put an addition on Indian Head and create a PK to grade 5 school. You could renovate and add something onto Indian Head and create a PK to grade 4 school. You could do a renovation addition to Hanson Middle School. This creates some interesting problems, because if you were to add even the older kids there, you still would have to retrofit Indian Head
That's right.
for the small kids.
Yeah.
And concerns that we have with Indian Head School is because the renovation that took place in the late 1990s wasn't a complete renovation, you've still got asbestos, you've still got lead paint, you've still got things that might trigger codes. So,
Oh, yeah,
at
right.
Indian Head. So Indian Head wouldn't be a straightforward project. There are things there that could be surprises.
That
Could you do an add-on to Indian Head that would house pre-K and kindergarten,
Sure, sure.
right? And then you
Yes.
wouldn't run into the trigger codes. you know?
Well, you're still, once
You're
you
building new bathrooms, right?
have to do new bathrooms, and then once something becomes all part of a project, though, and you spend certain amounts of money, you have to start bringing things up to code.
Okay, I got you.
And so we've got, and I see some value in that, because if you want this building to last another 20, 25 years,
You should do.
you certainly don't want asbestos and lead paint in it.
Right.
So those are some considerations. Then we just did renovation addition to Hanson Middle School, and I put those, but clearly you end up with your pre-K and K issue. And then you could renovate Indian Head School to include pre-K-K, or you could also add portable classrooms to Indian Head for pre-K-K. So there are a myriad
Cross that
of
one off.
options.
The portable classrooms? Cross that one off.
You don't like that idea, Kenny? And that can be very expensive. I actually did a little bit of research
I was there in the
on that.
mid-'80s, so.
Yeah. Oh, you've been, I took English in a portable classroom in high school in Pennsylvania. I know, it's not ideal.
It's not, but they've
So-
changed them since then, too.
They're much better
They
since
have changed
I
them,
graduated from
yes.
high school.
But they're much
They-
more expensive.
I
Yeah.
agree.
They
They
can
don't last
take
that
you
long. What do you get, 10 years out of a portable?
$250,000 for something that would have everything that you'd want it to have, and they're usually good 5 to 10 years. So you've got a variety of things to think about. The other piece is that I went back to the minutes that we had from the 24th of July, 2012, in which the 6 options were presented. And why that's important is it gave a ballpark of some costs. Now, these are 2012 costs. But the 6 options, and of course, one of them was base repair to McQuon School, that was ruled out, so I don't think we need to talk about that. Then it was renovation in addition to McQuon, and MSBA is saying they don't want to do that. The next was addition and renovation to McQuon again, and then finally 4 was a new building at McQuon PK to 2. Now, that's not dissimilar to what we put in as the statement of interest a year ago. Now, when I talked to Diane, I said, what would be the value of just putting the same statement of interest in solely for McQuon? And she said, there's nothing, it's neutral. The fact we didn't get it in the pipeline, there are many reasons for that. So she said you could clearly just resubmit for McQuon if you choose to do so.
What was the cost of that in 2012?
Yeah, I do. I have it, $2012, that was 36.4 million. Estimated Hanson share was 17.8 at that time. And that would be just replacing it with a new small school. Then the one that we've talked about as well would be an addition or renovation at the Indian Head School to make it a PK to 5. And they estimated the cost then at $52.7 million with an estimated town share of $26.3 million. So that's also $2012. And then, of course, there was the new building at either Indian Head or McQuon, PK or 5, and at that point, this was July 24th, 2012, that was $53 million at the time.
Yep.
So that gives you some things to think about in terms of what really should be submitted to MSBA. Because I think we've got the option of either just resubmitting, as we did before, and see where it goes in the pipeline, or presenting a plan to possibly renovate or put an addition on either to Hanson Middle or to Indian Head. One of the things with Hanson Middle that we came up with was either put an early childhood addition on that as another possibility, because that's probably less costly than what you're getting into a building that's 15, 16 years old. It's not gonna have asbestos, it's not gonna have lead paint.
Yes.
But then, of course, you've got little kids with big kids, which I'm not sure how well that would go with the town as well.
With a quick question with that, could you change, make that the pre-K to kindergarten addition? Could you change, I know no one wants to do this because it would be a nightmare for a little bit, but could you make that school 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and bring 5, 6, 7th, and 8th back to Indian Head like it used to be? Is that something?
Any options possible, Mike?
It almost, I mean, I like the idea
I'm
of a
not
small addition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how that would fly in the community, but yeah, you could
And there's
do.
no, then you're not touching any renovations up there. I know it's weird
Yeah,
to
I mean,
think,
clearly a
Has that been thought
renovation
about?
or addition at Hanson
I'd
Middle's
much rather see that.
gonna be
yeah.
less ambitious than one at
Right.
the Indian Head.
Yeah,
And the
I agree with that.
preschoolers, if we did,
Totally.
I mean, obviously, if Indian Head was an option, right, would the cafeteria be able to handle the extra grade too? Or would we have to look into that upgrade and maybe even the gym, or no?
Oh, I would think so, yes. I would
Right.
think if you're gonna do it, you wanna do it right. I mean,
That would be very costly, what you're talking about, Jim.
Absolutely.
yeah,
That would be a major, major renovation.
sure would. And that's
Middle
what
school
you've got.
sounds like if you were gonna renovate a school, middle school, because it's the newest school.
But it doesn't have the lead paint, it doesn't have asbestos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you have the real estate to expand?
Do you have to touch
Oh,
the gym
yeah.
in the
You could
cafeteria? at the
expand.
middle
All kinds of real estate there.
Well, that's, I
Just
don't
the
think
only
you
issue
would.
now is the kids, the big kids with the little kids.
So whether you'd have it designed as a separate entrance, something like
Well, you'd
that.
have to segregate it off. You'd have
Yeah.
to make it so the entrance for the little kids,
Yeah.
Yes.
they couldn't get into each other's
What's the school
space.
that's building a gigantic pre-K through 12? What school system is doing that? Is that Holbrook?
Holbrook, because they have such a small enrollment.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
a lot
the
of schools are
little kids with
actually
real big
looking at
kids.
the old K-8 model,
Yeah.
things like that, yeah.
So if middle school was that option, then we wouldn't have to do the upgrade for the gymnasium, right?
No.
The preschoolers don't eat lunch. Do they eat the lunch cafeteria food or no? Do they have the lunch program for the preschoolers? the pre-K?
Very few,
Very few do?
right.
So then our
Kindergarten-
CAF could accommodate them, probably. Yeah.
I would think that's, you have to, yeah, I mean, you've got to be careful if when you've got, yeah, how you.
Smaller ones, right.
Yeah.
You'd have to organize, as long as the
Yeah.
kids aren't eating lunch at 9 AM, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's gonna be.
The, most of the preschool programs are half-day, so that's not a big thing. Kindergarten would be kids who'd be there for lunch,
For the whole day.
yeah.
Okay.
We have to look at, the biggest part of the renovation would be if we moved the grade from Indian Head to Hanson Middle. And then if we moved the younger kids over to Indian Head, you'd have some renovations to do for bathrooms and a lot of that. But it'd keep the younger kids,
Separate.
the age disparity wouldn't be
Yeah,
as
right.
great
Right.
as if
Right,
you did it
I
the
mean,
other
that's the
way.
advantage of
And
that.
the age disparity is a big thing.
Plus and minus.
Yeah, it is. People will react strongly to that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it would probably, where we've spent a lot of money on the roof over there and we've done some repairs, it would probably be worth doing it, and that might be what we should put in for the second SOI, because we've invested a bunch of money into it, the town has. That might be part of the solution, because we have the room there as far as we talk about the real estate part of it.
Mhm.
And I believe when we looked at the septic system, it was still working properly, and it could take more children at the same area, I believe, when we looked at it. We'd have to pull all that stuff. But I think what we're trying to determine, and what Ruth has done, is she's given you a wide range of things to think about. But we need to put something in the SKU, because the SOI date is coming close.
Yes.
And you have to vote, and the school committee has to vote, and
And it's
to get all
coming
that
quicker.
done. So I think
So
I think putting in the one from McQuon is easy. We need to do that, and the nice thing is they pre-populated it already, so we can tweak that. But clearly, that's one solution, but if it's really to look at some more creative things with the other buildings, then we need to determine where to put that in. The other piece of advice that Diane Sullivan gave me is she said, put the SOIs in for the places where you really want to get some state money back, and a place that's gonna cost you less to fix or retrofit for everybody's would be one that would be at town expense. So if you're looking at 3 buildings, closing one, doing something to the other 2, you wanna kinda cut your
You can
losses.
submit multiple, Ruth?
2.
You can.
And they look at it, as long as you get them in, they look at it as we move through with it, just like they did the other one. Their recommendations are, maybe you should try to think about this. And there's a little flexibility in
Yeah,
an
exactly.
SOI. It's not like cut right to the chase, no, in and out. There's flexibility that they come back with, and recommendations that they come back
So
with.
what would
And
the,
that's the other thing that when I talked to her, because as you know, there was a feasibility study that was done that the town paid, I think, $218,000 for, and MSBA paid the rest.
Mhm.
So the conversation with her was, okay, how much of a feasibility study would Hanson have to do now? Because you've already paid for some and you have some information.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the study done up to the 6 options has already been paid for. We already know that 3 of the options aren't viable, because we know MSBA is not gonna do anything with renovating McQuon School. So the good news is, a lot of that preliminary stuff
oh, yeah.
has already been done.
Yeah.
The next piece that would have to be done is where some of the money comes in, because we actually had designs for a new school, and that's where we spent more money. But clearly, a lot of this has been done, so there'd still need to be a feasibility study, but I think MSBA would not expect a feasibility study as full-blown as something as if you were just starting
Yeah,
brand
because
new.
you've already done all the historical work
Yeah,
on
so a
all
lot of
of
that's
the
been-
different aspects of the McQuon and the Indian Head. That's
Yeah.
not gonna change.
Not gonna change, and that's been done.
Yeah.
But then you'd still have to say, well, if your plan was to do something with Indian Head or Hanson Middle, that's where the money's gonna be spent.
Right.
To figure out what that option is to look like.
Okay.
Important thing is that MSBA, because they're paying 56 or whatever %, make a lot of the final decisions.
Mhm.
So it's good to know what you're thinking before you
Because
get
normally,
there.
the way it worked the last time, you started off with the McQuon only thing, and then you moved to the once you get into the, once they get you into the program, and you had the 14-member building committee, then you came up with, then you had to get the feasibility study. You came up with the 6 options. And so how would it work? Would it work similar this time?
I would think, well, I mean, certain things MSBA prescribes, they
Would you
tell you
just-
exactly what to
Would you
do.
just submit one for the McQuon and then come, once you get into the pipeline, you,
We would submit them together and they would look at them together. And that's what she said to me when I talked to her on the phone. She said, you want to try to link these two together.
two together,
So that
right.
we can begin to see that the town is starting to think about creative solutions to the McQuon problem. So I think that, and she said, the more you can weave that in, and she told me I can call her anytime and she'll help us with that.
so the McQuon, the one for the McQuon might look like an SOI to move those classrooms around, to take the.
The SOI, well, Ernie, you've done a lot of SOI. The SOI from McQuon is basic, the SOIs are basically, it's what you've got. How many classrooms, what's the class size, how
Okay.
old is this, how old
Not
is
what
that?
you're gonna do with it, but why it needs to be,
Exactly.
something needs
You
to be
give
done with it.
descriptions, it'll give you questions, type of windows,
Yeah,
age of windows, single pane, double pane.
But it doesn't include the solution that you're.
it doesn't include
It
it.
asks all the
It's not a
questions.
solution at
Just
all.
convince them that something needs to be done with the
It's
McQuon.
just the facts.
Yeah, that's
What
the
are the
facts.
facts? So we have to update those facts, and then we have, one from Indian Head School that's from 2012 that would need to be updated.
Right.
If that was gonna be the thing you all wanted to look at.
So if we looked at, well, the one I think Kenny was looking at, and I liked it too, was the pre-K to K addition to the Hanson Middle School, because it would be the least asbestos and everything else that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, the way it would look would be for Indian Head would have grades 1, 2, 3, 4. The middle school would have grades 5, 6, 7, 8, and then whatever the renovation
We
or
have an
addition.
early learning center.
And then the
Yeah,
Earning Learning
right.
Center would have PK through K off of Hanson Middle School,
Mhm.
right? That would
Yeah,
be the
that would
final.
be one option.
Yeah. To me,
So then
that
what
would be
you
the
put
most
in would
obvious
be a-
preferred option would be that one. I
Yeah.
mean, just,
Yeah.
my
It's
initial
certainly gonna
knee-jerk
cost
reaction.
less.
It'd be a little painful during construction,
Yeah.
with the kids moving them around, but
Well, see, the issue of construction there would not be a problem
Yeah,
because you would
because
be
the
adding
foundation
on.
is
You add
it's in
on.
the back.
And the
Yeah.
area that's in
Yeah.
between the two
Yeah.
is the library, so you
Yeah.
already have a,
if you add non-separating them's not gonna be a problem.
Right.
The kids would still be going because we'd be having McQuon still online, hopefully nothing happened.
Right.
So you'd still,
so the
You have that
disruption
building,
would be
right.
less.
it'd almost be one of the solutions very similar to the high school. We kept them in the old high school, and we built a brand new school, and we moved them in. I mean,
Yep.
that's the perfect storm.
So what do you guys need from us tonight, to support the SOI
We
for the
need to know which
McQuon?
SOIs we're supposed to be writing. We know we have to do McQuon, but we need to know if we're writing one for Indian Head or for Hanson Middle, because we can only choose one.
I think the
So that's
Hanson,
what we really need to
I think
see.
McQuon and
Middle, I would say.
It's the newest building.
One in Hanson Middle.
Yeah.
So the one that meets grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the Indian Head School, where, and 5, 6, 7, and 8 would be at the middle school.
Mhm.
And we'd have a pre-K through K renovation or addition at the middle school. That would be the option, that would be the way to go, that we'd like to
I
go.
Is
think
that the
that-
consensus opinion? Glenn, you feel the same way?
I think the other thing to remember though is there are still things that are gonna have to be done at Indian Head
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
School.
to
absolutely,
upgrade.
yeah.
You'll
You
be
said
paying
before.
dollar for dollar
Oh,
for
sure,
those.
yeah.
But, you know, this way you don't have to get into a major project, which we already know is $52 million
Yeah.
in 2012 dollars.
Yeah.
So there'll be things such as the roof and the lintels that you already did. Ernie, what other things do you see coming up in that building?
We have asbestos, obviously, in Indian Head, also lead paint. Lead paint is inside and in the exterior. Handicap accessibility, depending on the area or the expense or the amount of money we spend, they might make us, because we got those ramps,
Yes,
they might make us upgrade those. And chairlifts, we have chairlifts going down to the gym and a chairlift coming out of the gym. Again, there's that threshold. You can't use a chairlift in any project today. They're not allowed.
You might have to reconfigure a ramp through
Correct.
there, something,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that's probably the other consideration, is that Indian Head School is going to need work.
Yeah.
And I think you wanna think about, do you want MSBA to help you pay for that work? Or are you gonna pay for it dollar for dollar? That's, I think, the decision,
But
as
we,
you look at which SOI we're gonna do.
What type of timeline do we have, Ruth?
I think,
2 weeks?
you all need to vote probably next week, or we have to have a special meeting, because we have till the 8th of April to put it in. I think we need to figure it out pretty soon.
so when do you need an answer from us? Tonight?
As soon as possible. Well, not tonight, but I
Can
think
we
you could
think
shoot
about it
around.
some more?
Yeah,
Um,
as long as you're meeting soon.
We're meeting next week.
Next week,
Oh, well, that's
next week we
perfect,
could do
because
it.
the
That works.
committee
That work?
would have to vote it maybe the 16th. We have
Yes.
2
And we're
meetings, so.
meeting next week too.
You have to vote it before us?
Then you've got to, what, April 11th to get it in or something like that?
April 8th. April
April
8th. We don't have another meeting, but we could always have a special meeting if we
Yeah.
had to.
Jack, did you have a question?
Can I ask a quick question? If you're going to have to, make this muddle it, but if you're gonna have to go into the existing Indian Head, and you're saying you're gonna have to do some more abatement, you're gonna have to do more lead removal and all that, then why not put the pre-K, you're gonna do the remediation anyways, why wouldn't you just put the module onto the Indian Head?
That's
You're
what I
gonna
would.
do the work anyway.
I think that, those are the tough
I mean, if you're gonna move
decisions.
1 and 2 there, and you have to do that work already, then why not keep them all together? That would be my only question.
Yeah, plus
That's
if
just a
you,
thought.
That's
For-
one of the reasons
I
we're
think
here.
that's,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why it's important to think about this, because
I
sooner or
just-
later, the Indian Head work's gonna have to get done.
Well, that's what I mean, I understand why you would want to go to middle school, you're saying that those other things don't exist, however, if you're going to correct them anyway, then.
Yeah,
The other thing is if you meet that threshold of the 1.5 million, you're gonna have to bring the whole Indian Head up to code anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as soon as you touch that school, you're gonna hit 155.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's whether you want MSBA to pay 50 to 60% of that, or you wanna do dollar for dollar and maybe put the pre-K, addition
there,
on.
I don't
into
think it's
middle.
an easy decision, because
Yeah.
you've gotta look at what you wanna do down the road. How long do you want these things to last? So,
Plus, it would be nice if we could put some numbers around them, each one of the options too, right?
well, I mean, we have the numbers.
gonna be difficult, right?
I mean, we already know that the Indian Head reno was a $52 million option then. So it's gonna be more now, but we know that that is reimbursable to an extent. An addition for PK to K is gonna be significantly less than that, I'm sure.
Oh,
It would have to be.
Well, there's a flat roof section part of, on the Indian Head, right? You know, the back of the building that abuts the field.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna need, if we did what you're saying, Jack, for PK through K, right, these are the things we need to think about. I'm assuming that we're gonna need more classrooms, obviously, right, to make up what we have now.
Absolutely.
So maybe put, if possible, I don't know, if you could put another level on top of that, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but, you know, then you're gonna talk about, you know, would we need to do an upgrade to the cafeteria? If, for the additional, you know what I'm saying, or do we need to, you know what I'm saying? All those things would have to be broken down for those options, so I think we'd need some time to look at the
I
options.
think
and
you
maybe
do
put
too,
some-
and that's why we put this together, so you have a real sense of, you know, it's not easy, but sooner or later, McQuon isn't gonna make it anymore.
Oh, no.
I
Yeah,
think, Jim, we talked about going up in that
Area,
back during the building project.
yeah,
And I think the footprint, if I remember correctly, the footprint needed to be expanded on
out,
Indian Head out to the
Toward the
right,
field?
towards going down School Street.
okay,
There's a circular driveway to the right of the school if you're looking at Memorial Hall.
yep,
I believe that's where we were
Mhm.
headed with it,
mhm.
that way.
oh, okay,
And if you were going to have younger kids, you might consider in that possibility, instead of touching the current cafeteria, you might put a smaller cafeteria in that
area?
wing of the building to keep it so it was separate,
right,
which isn't a real big deal compared to if you tried to go up
yep,
or you tried to do any, and I'm pretty sure that's what we looked at the last time. I'm not even sure if you saw it, anybody, I'm pretty sure.
Well, the
I've got
option,
all that stuff somewhere.
okay,
the estimate that we got that was addition renovation to Indian Head, it said would be, this was the estimate we got then, demolish Indian Head one-story wing, build new two-story addition, targeted renovation of existing 1951 wing, and demolish or repurpose McQuon School with targeted renovation, mostly upgrades and repairs, with a roof replacement. Well, the roof's done, so that's one thing.
And that was 56?
52.7,
52.7.
with 26.3 million in
That was putting everybody in the
the
same
town
roof.
share.
Yep.
Right.
You know, that's, you know,
Now, the other thing too is enrollment's down now, but how about in 10 years?
yeah, you've got,
So you
one
got-
of the things MSBA does as you get into this is they do enrollment projections.
Okay.
They do it for us?
Yes.
They do enrollment projections.
And you can even
Everything.
contest it if you don't
It's
quite
amazing.
agree, because we did the last time, and
Okay.
in the end,
That's
they
all
were
part of
actually
the
right on
process.
target.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
Yeah,
they must
they
have.
said that enrollment was gonna go down, we didn't believe them, and look what happened.
Yeah.
They said it was low birth rate, and that's what they were saying. They were right,
Wow,
yeah, yeah.
excellent.
So a lot to think about. You know, we have to have it in by the 8th, but it does take time.
It's because people were so busy at meetings, the birth rate went down.
So you need from us to choose one
I
of
think
these
you need
options.
to let us know which you think
couple
is
of
the
them.
option that will be best supported by your town.
How many?
Because I don't think we wanna
Just
go
two?
through it with.
Right, no, I totally agree.
So you're looking for the best two options?
We can
that
only
vote
write,
on here.
Jim, we can only do 2 SOIs.
Yep, I
So we
get you.
need to know what the second one
No,
is.
this is great, this is
So it's
great.
gotta be
First one has to be
McQuon in the middle
Did a
school
great
or
job.
McQuon and Indian Head, basically.
Right, right. And we're gonna present the same.
You brought up a good point
Committee.
over the, on that, which gotta be looked at, but then how much is it to bring the whole school up to compliance?
And the one thing, and I just asked,
Yeah.
and that's not saying that once you get into it, that
There might be
they may
additional
say, well, let's look at this and look at that as well. So the project could possibly change slightly once you
Sure.
get into things.
Oh, yeah,
I
sure.
mean, this is just the
Yeah.
very beginning, and then they make you go through all kinds of
Yeah.
different things.
It's really the start, Jim, because I was on both of those other projects,
Sure.
and they come up with lots of recommendations, and they ask for the town's input too.
Yep.
But ultimately, they're putting 50% or better up, and they have an educational background, obviously, of districts all around the state of Massachusetts, and they see what works demographically better than what doesn't. So their recommendation plays in a lot too, because it's like anything, you're talking to builders, they come and, you're thinking you wanna build this, and they come in and they go, no, what about this?
Right.
And you go, oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And they, they give you a recommendation, we've done this in Wilbraham, we've done this, you can go look.
Right.
As people have come to Whitman Hanson, to look at Whitman Hanson Regional High School,
Yeah.
well, the same thing, in this process, we would probably travel, like, we went to Hingham, when we were
Yeah,
looking
went
at
to East
middle
School,
schools.
yeah.
We went to Hingham, we went to a bunch of other places. This all takes process over a few years to get it done, but you get a better snapshot of what might work for you.
Direction.
And even on sites, we went to sites that were hilly, where they did
Yeah.
creative ideas of building stuff in.
Into the.
We went to flat sites. I mean, we traveled all over the state looking at schools. That last project wasn't a quickie. We went everywhere, so that all goes into the process, is
Oh,
what I'm
sure,
saying.
yeah.
But we need to get something
All right.
in to see if we're even in the skew.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll give us a
Gotta start
better,
somewhere.
yeah, it'll give us a better snapshot of what's the best dollar value.
Sleep on this, this is a great start, this is exactly what
You
we're
know,
looking
that's
for.
10 options, but there might
yeah.
even be more.
Of course,
Right.
yeah.
So, I mean, you need to be creative in thinking about
So we'll
it.
come up with that, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, Mary.
And
And
are
we'll have an answer
we
for
sure
you.
that the grade's moving, that the septics would handle the extra grades?
We know
Or we're
that
not
the-
sure, is that something that would have to be looked into?
We know that the septic at Hanson Middle School is built for 700,
Okay, so that would be enough to
We know that.
accommodate the grade,
but
and the PK, and maybe the kid.
And how many's there now? The middle?
400 some, what I
Oh,
tell
okay,
you,
good.
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Yeah,
yeah, 400.
414.
414.
okay, great.
So it gives you an idea.
Well, this is super. We appreciate all the work that you've done on this, this is great. And the only other thing I had was the regional school agreement and the lease. When we went over that back a few years ago with the attorney, so the regional school agreement's almost like a dinosaur, needs to be upgraded. So what we'd like to do, and maybe you could initiate it, is have a subcommittee you know, look at some of the things in the regional school agreement. Some of the things are outdated. Some of the things need to be upgraded. We're doing things that aren't in the regional school agreement that should be in there. So just to form a little subcommittee.
I'll do that.
Yeah, and meet like once a month or something to start to go through the things with a couple representatives from Whitman, from Hanson, and from the regional school committee.
That's fine.
And the other thing that could be useful is we belong to the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools.
Yes.
And they actually will provide services to help regions look at their agreements that, you know, have gotten to be like ours, you know, 20, 25 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And so they will
Yeah.
actually look at that, and I think that might be something to think
We
about.
can cover
too.
those things that Alicia mentioned and the other problems you had with the, because you went through some of that stuff.
We
Yeah,
can-
we'll
We
do
don't
that.
have to get into detail now, but we
And
can,
we'll have them
we can
take a
start
look at
that
it, and we'll form a committee and
yeah.
update anything that needs to be updated.
Add the middle school to the agreement too, right? We gotta do that, so.
And Ernie had a question about the McQuon roof.
$7,500 for Gale Engineering, did you guys vote that?
No, I don't think we didn't vote for it, we didn't know we were gonna be asked to vote.
Oh, just to approve.
Just to approve it?
Just to approve it so we can get them out
So
there,
they
so
can
that
get
we
it out
can
there.
Yeah, no.
a number by
Sooner
town
put
meeting.
that.
Yep.
Oh, sure.
Th-
A
this-
motion to approve Gale Engineering for
For the
$7,500
evaluation
roof.
study.
for the evaluation study of the roof of the McClellan School in Hanson.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
And this cost will be for the replacement of the wet insulation,
Yes,
right? The wet insulation and for the cost on the.
whatever the
Whatever the
remediation might be.
remediation, right.
Yep.
And
And we're
whatever
looking-
the fixes.
And we're looking for something maybe like a 7 to 10 year long, fix length, if we can get that from it. Because
Good.
obviously we know that we don't wanna put a lot of money into, I think everybody agrees with this, right? We don't wanna put a lot of, a new roof on this thing if this is not the direction we're gonna go in
Right.
7 years from now, right?
Oh, who knows where it's gonna go?
Okay.
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 Thank you very much.
Ernie, do we have a
Thanks, Fred.
ballpark
Thanks,
number?
Ernie.
Do we have a ballpark
Christine?
number or no? I know, oh, you won't get it until after the,
Gale comes out.
Okay.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
They'll be out real soon now, like you say.
All those in favor?
73% tomorrow.
They'll be out.
Thank you all.